Order, as you are able and willing, please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We begin with our public comment section, and we do have a couple of folks that have signed up to deliver public comment today. Because we have not had public comment in a little while, I'm going to just spend a minute reviewing the rules for public comment. We ask commenters to please, if they can, confine their comments to 3 minutes if possible. That doesn't apply tonight, I think. Speakers are, of course, expected to follow the rules of common etiquette, refraining from use of vulgar and/or abusive language, yelling, arguing, making defamatory comments. This, of course, is as much for the benefit of the folks at home as in complaints or comments, whether positive or negative, concerning individuals either employed by the school or students will not be allowed at public meetings due to confidentiality and privacy concerns. And this is not a public debate, conversation, or question and answer period. Comments should be directed to the board, and the board reserves the right to manage accordingly. So with that, we have two folks that are interested. If we start, please, by identifying yourself by name and town at the microphone, and then please deliver your comments. Go ahead, Mr. Cleary, you're first on the list.
Hi, my name is James Cleary, and I live at 1 Backacres Lane in South Berwick. Most days when my boys come home from school and I ask them what they learned, I get the standard answer, I don't remember. Well, 2 weeks ago, on January 22nd, when some parents asked their 4-year-old pre-K kids what they learned at school, they were alarmed to hear them answer, I learned that girls can wear boy clothes and boys can wear dresses. The book in question is titled Molly's Tuxedo, and it was written by an LGBTQ activist. This picture book was read aloud to 1 or more pre-K classes at Elliott Elementary School. Themes of this book include gender nonconformity and defiance of parents. Not only does the character of this book dislike the style and fit of a dress, she declares that she, quote, just doesn't feel like herself when wearing a dress, but that she, quote, feels just right wearing the tuxedo. It may be easy to brush this book off as an example of how to be inclusive, but there is an obvious transgressive agenda to this book. The purpose of this book is to provide very young children with an early introduction into radical gender ideology. So, some parents are upset about a book in school. Now what? I searched the internet and found many resources for how schools are supposed to handle the sticky situation when parents complain about a book. The consensus is for school administration to remain emotionally neutral and simply direct the parents to follow the sanitized and cumbersome process of submitting a complaint form. For our district, this is in policy IMBB. My limited search has shown me that in most cases, especially in Maine, the school will take under advisement the professional reviews of academics over the concerns of parents whose children will be directly impacted. The book usually stays on the shelf no matter how bad the content. Policy IJJ dictates that the school board is ultimately responsible for the selection of books in school, but those choices are normally delegated to other staff. If the school board decides to remove a controversial book, they can at any time. A different book could be read to the 4-year-olds and no parents would be distressed. The school should use common sense and provide reasonable accommodation to all families by not promoting books like this. If parents wish, they can seek out and purchase these books for reading at home. I do not think it is reasonable for parents of pre-K students to worry about submitting Form IMBB to protect their 4-year-olds from instruction that goes against their family values. I look forward to transparency and accountability on this issue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you. Second, Ms. Chick.
I'm Perrin Chick. I live at in Old Mill in Beaver Dam Road, and I have 2 compliments and 1 question. First of all, Superintendent Caverly, Mr. Long, thank you so much for answering all my questions so quickly. They were wonderful, very quick, efficient. I appreciate that. As someone who works on education on the state and national level, I also, my second compliment, want to say to the school board, to all the teachers, how much we appreciate how hard it is to lead and to be an educator and to be a professional during times like this when people are questioning everything and there are executive orders coming out, but they are in a different alignment than what's coming out from the state and local. So I thank you all for being amazing leaders. And then just one quick question. The committee meetings that happen beforehand, are they always at 6:15 or do they happen at different times, and can people join those meetings? That's my question.
Yes, so the social wellness SEL committee always meets between 6 and 6:15 on the Wednesday of a regular board meeting. It's generally the first meeting of the month, so the
Great.
first week of the month. Facilities and Finance meets in that same slot roughly for the second meeting of the month, which is the third Wednesday. And then the Policy Committee meets on the fourth Wednesday during the day.
And will that time during the day be made available for people to come and listen?
If we haven't published it already, we certainly ought to.
I've got to get one question answered about that, but yes.
Okay.
Great.
Let me do that,
It's
yeah.
typically on our agenda as well, like you'll see when the next meetings are on the posted agenda, you'll see like what the, like today's agenda said, like wellness meets at 6:15 and the regular meeting at 7. And then it will say when the upcoming meetings are in the agenda as well, so people can see it
It doesn't say
there.
the time, though.
Okay.
It says the day, but not the time.
Okay,
Sorry.
I can fix that, thank you.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the public comment section and brings us to the report of the secretary. May I have a motion, please, to approve the minutes of our last meeting?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, January 15th, 2025.
Second, Rebecca?
Rebecca, thank you. Any comments or questions from the board?
No, great as always.
Looks good.
Very good. All in favor? Thank you. Concludes the report of the secretary, brings us to the report of the chair. Two items. First, our next town officials meeting is scheduled for February 12th. That will be at 8:30 in the morning, and I'm not sure of the location, but those of you who wish to attend so that we can avoid a quorum, let me know, and we'll coordinate. So that's next Wednesday, the 12th. Secondly, I just get back last night from a weekend of National School Board Association conference. There was a day of leadership symposium, which was aimed at leadership for nonprofits, so in this case, the Maine School Board Association. So that was instruction on board members of the MSBA. And then the next 2 days were the Advocacy and Equity Institute. Some good sessions. I haven't had a chance yet, because I just got back last night, to summarize my notes, but when I do, I'll make sure that you all get a chance to look at that. I will say that on Tuesday, which was Advocacy Day on the Hill, we had a chance to go to the offices of each of our 4 legislators, the 2 senators and the 2 congresspersons. And we made a presentation to them on the Maine School Board Association's priorities for legislative session. I'll read briefly through those. Increased funding for special education, namely full funding for IDEA. The Individual with Disabilities Education Act was passed something like 50 years ago, and the act called for 40% funding by the federal government, and they're currently running around 12 to 13% funding. So we lobbied for additional funding for that. We talked about title funds and the impact on education equity and student success. There's concern about whether title funds will remain in place. We talked about vouchers and their impact on the public schools. We talked about the potential for the E-rate funding to go away. That's funding that we use, districts throughout Maine use for things like broadband access and technology hardware. And then finally, the support. We asked for continued support from the government for universal free breakfast and lunch for all students. So those were the 5 main areas that we talked about.
Thank you.
It was interesting. Okay, that, I believe, concludes my report and brings us to the report of the superintendent.
Thank you very much. First on my report is a subsidy update. So we did receive the feedback from the ED 279. I would say that it was good news. I wouldn't say it was great news, and it wasn't bad news, somewhere in the middle. And so the next meeting, I'd like to propose to be able to have Ryan kind of give you a more detailed breakdown of what the cost triggers were and what that looks like before we go into the first presentation of my recommended budget in the first meeting in March. So we're going through that right now. I'm just trying to balance off some of the new costs that are being associated with that and be able to kind of build a plan that makes sense going forward. So we'll share that with you next week if that makes sense when we create the agenda. I've included for the board just kind of a quick catalog of all the offerings that we'll have on the March 14th HAWK conference. We have a bunch of staff members, we put a tremendous amount of time into this to be able to provide some professional development for all of our staff. We've invited, administrative assistants, we've invited bus drivers, van drivers, teachers, administrators to be able to attend this with us and be able to really work to be able to meet the needs of our staff. So incredible amount of work has gone into this. I do want to point out, though, that the keynote address will be a speaker discussing AI, as I know that's really obviously a topic of the future that we want to be, up to date with. So, Heidi, did I miss anything with that?
No, I just appreciate the support, and I know we have a copy of the board session, so hopefully a couple of you will be with us that day for that. And if anybody wants to come and sign up for workshops, you're more than welcome to. I'll make sure when we send the registration link out on Monday that they include all of you.
Thank
you.
you.
I'm eager to do that.
Yeah,
But
these look
great.
as last year, I'm sensitive to the idea that these are sessions with limited seating, and I wouldn't want to displace
Right.
anybody from the staff who wanted to attend a particular session, so you can counsel us on that?
I'm
Okay.
confident we have enough space.
Okay, good.
I can, if you sign up for something that's super popular, I can put you at the bottom of the list. If you are relevant, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
This looks awesome. Thank you so much.
A lot
This
of
is
good
so
stuff
cool.
here.
It is, it's very good.
Well, I was introduced to a new term that I've never heard before, extramural, not an intramural, not an interscholastic, but an extramural. And so there is a group of students who have an interest in volleyball, and so we're doing kind of a pseudo intramural / maybe go away for 2 or 3 games to play other area programs that are involved. That happens during that second winter season at the middle school. Rob Childs, I think, is going down and volunteering his time to be able to make this happen. And so I just want to really make you aware of it. I'm just get a great opportunity for our students. So.
Did you skip over number 3 on purpose?
Yep. No, not on purpose. It's been a long day. Number 3, I'm sorry. Just begin to start thinking about the board's self-evaluation. In all likelihood, the May policy meeting part of that will be the creation of a policy around this and the self-evaluation process, and then working on it over the summertime, and then having that in place for the board as the school year begins. So I know that a number of you went to different sessions during the MSA conference, and just making sure that we have that in place as we begin the next school year.
It's a topic we've talked a great deal about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think we were hoping to workshop, maybe, is that what we said, a
Right,
policy?
so we
Yes,
get
have a
input.
workshop about it.
Yep.
to sort of-
I think we're thinking about June. Does that sound right?
Yes, I
Yep,
think it's
with-
June, yes.
You may be workshopped out, but between March
Yeah.
and April with budget stuff.
No such thing.
Never.
So.
All in.
Number 5, just wanted to start to kind of put together the agenda for the Rollinsford Board Workshop that we have in place. Now, I spoke to Carrie Choate, who is the Vice Chairperson of the Rollinsford Board. They're not going to be able to have their entire board there. They have some other things going on that evening, but there will be a representation here. For me, the number one thing is to talk about the proposal that we've been working on for special education services, where Rollinsford would pay MSAD 35 to take on some responsibility for them and buy part of the special education director's time to be able to meet their needs as they are moving away from Somersworth. And so we have a proposal that we'd like to put on the table. I've been really clear that I want that in place if we're going to do that by the February 12th meeting. And so when I start to build the budget and do my budget presentation, we know those numbers and I can build that accordingly. So. And again, and really these two things go together, 5 and 6, and I'm going to roll kind of together, if you will. I think there's just some confusion sometimes where when we last met, I talked about things being mutually beneficial, whether it's beneficial to students or beneficial to, financially to the district. And when we talked about our relationship with Rollinsford, and I gave the example of having some ability to maybe offer more AP classes because we have a larger enrollment at the high school, that's going to benefit all students. And so obviously our students benefit from a more robust curriculum. Financially, there's a cost per pupil allocation that is put towards our revenue side that offsets the expenses that we have as a district. And so there's a financial benefit for MS80 35 to do this. So this isn't a situation where we would be losing money. And I know there was some confusion about that, and that's not what we would put together. So just to be aware of that. Kind of rolling into the Rollinsford update, I believe that they had their meeting yesterday around their budget. It's a little bit different process, where I believe that their articles can go up or down 10% as part of their meetings. I was asked by the Rollinsford board if we had capacity to be able to meet the needs of Elliott students. And if we did have the capacity, Rollinsford grade school students. So years ago, when we were asked that question, we did not have capacity. Our spaces were pretty tight. We do have space at Elliott Elementary School. We've seen a little bit of a decrease in enrollment, particularly in the pre-K grades the last couple of years. So I put together a proposal just to be able to say, yes, we were able to do that, put that out to them. I do not think that they're going to take us up on that. I think the meeting yesterday was pretty clear that they have a strong feeling that they'd like to keep their own neighborhood schools, which I think is 100%, that's their decision. I just wanted to be a good partner and put the information out there, but the dynamics have changed where we do have some space. And so putting that together and talking that through, Ryan and I spent a great deal of time going through their budget, looking at our budget, and trying to create a plan that would make sense for everybody on both sides. And so we have done that. I do not think they'll take advantage of that, but I did want to kind of share that and just kind of take away that misnomer that we would lose money or somehow this would cost the citizens of Elliott and Southwark more money. That would just not make any sense for us to do that.
So are they taking this to the town to vote, to the Rollinsford town?
My understanding is that they changed the warrant line, and I wasn't there, so I'm going by, I know a person who knows a person, but my understanding is they changed the citizens warrant to be able to review it on a yearly basis, not necessarily to move and make a decision right away. I also don't know if the citizens warrant would have been binding anyway. I think it ultimately would come down to the discretion of the school committee or the school board. And so I think they did some work on that last night to kind of change it so they can always kind of keep that in mind of working it through. So I just wanted to put that out to people. Sometimes things catch fire and there's not facts behind it. I just wanted to make sure that we had some information to be able to quell those concerns. We have spent an incredible amount of time looking for every revenue source that we possibly can to keep our school budget down. And we will continue to do that. And I can say that to anybody with a straight face. And so we are very creative. We're trying to do things that we can manage, be as efficient as we can with our money. And also if there's other ways to bring in revenue, we want to make sure that we have a chance to do that to keep that tax assessment down. So, any questions about any of that? Okay. Student reports.
All right, so we have a little bit on sports. So all sports games tomorrow have been postponed due to the weather. So girls basketball continue their winning streak. They're currently at 15-1. Last night was their senior night against Noble, and they played very well. The girls will now have an away game on Friday against Kennebunk. It's the last of their regular season. Boys basketball will now have their senior night on Friday at 4. Unified Basketball has won all 3 of their games so far. They're looking forward to their senior night on February 11th against York. The ski team has a meet tonight at 5:30, or already had it, at Pleasant Mountain. The Nighthawks will have their senior night this Saturday at 5 p.m. in Dover. Indoor track's regular season has come to an end, but some athletes are headed to Southwesterns this Saturday. And this past Saturday, we had some individuals get some PRs and some new school records, which is very exciting. So congratulations to all.
For Student Gov, we finalized our planning around Winter Carnival for next week, and we're working on pushing out information over the next few days. The policy committee is working to finalize a proposal regarding the SAC Pass policy and the parent-student handbook. And the Student Life Committee hopes to propose new mural ideas in the coming month, which is super exciting. And we're super happy to announce that we've elected Addie Cleary as our junior president. And she'll kind of learn the ropes over the next few months. And then she'll go on to become the senior president next year. Civil rights team spoke yesterday with a community member about renewing contact with South Berwick's sister city, Tuskegee, in Alabama. Members are hoping to open some communication with the high school students over there in Tuskegee and to try to understand a little bit more about each other's lives. The Marshwood High School Student Ambassadors Program reached out with a Google form looking for student representatives to go to the middle school and welcome some 8th graders and answer some questions. Interact Club is looking into funding some books for Nellie Young, who is a very involved Interact member. This summer, Nellie will be visiting Peru to meet the teachers and children at a nursery, which she had a key part in funding and building. So she hopes to bring some books to the children just as a little gift. Winter Percussion and Winter Guard have been practicing really hard for their first competition, and they'll have that this Sunday. And then Math Team had a meet on the 29th at Kennebunk, and there were only 4 members present, but the team still placed 3rd overall, which is really great. Quiz Bowl has a meet this Saturday at Plymouth Regional High School. And then finally, the Yearbook Club has decided on senior superlatives and just sent out a Google form for some staff superlatives, which is super fun. And they're coming up on the home stretch of designing the yearbook before sending it in for printing.
And then lastly, our student life section. So February 10th through the 14th, the sophomore class will be selling carnations that will be delivered on Valentine's Day. Also, the week of February 10th, it'll be our Spirit Week / our Winter Carnival with a pep rally on Friday. So we're really looking forward to that. To kind of.
Do you have themes every day?
We are in the process of picking our themes. We just sent out a Google form kind of having people vote on some themes for that week. So we're still waiting on results from that, but they're all really fun. So I'm excited.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. No other correspondence to report on, so I'll move right into the report of the committees. Finance and Facilities. Next meeting is February 12th. So we'll have a report on that at our next regular meeting. Ed Policy met on 1/29, and we'll next meet on February 26th, and we'll get the time out on that as well. Anything to say about the meeting? We have a number of first reads in our new business, right? Is there anything else to report on? Okay. I did want to make mention, and I over the course of the weekend, I had a discussion with one of my colleagues on the Maine School Board Association, who in his local district up in the Acadia area, they've just done a first read on an AI use policy.
Interesting.
I haven't seen that yet.
I got the text of it from him, and I will submit it to the policy committee for just initial consideration. I'm not suggesting that this is the answer, but it might be interesting for the policy committee to have a look at.
It's a good start, like, just to have something
Yeah.
to look at
It's
and
time.
to explore.
That's great.
Okay. And then the last, we had Wellness SEL meet earlier this evening. Next meeting, March 5th. Someone wish to report out on this evening's meeting?
Sure, I will. We started our discussion about the wellness conference that some of our staff had an opportunity to go to at the Samoset. They came back very excited and energized and wanted to bring back lots of ideas to back to the school. And they were all actually thinking of maybe joining wellness to share some of these ideas. But a lot of our discussion kind of turned to how we can bring a theme for wellness to our schools. So maybe either each of the schools having an individual thing that they're focusing on, and how we're going to make connections that, let's let me back up a little bit here too. let's see, can you kind of expand on that, what we were talking about for the?
Yeah, so I think we
just
talked
lost
about
my
a lot
train
of
of
things.
thought. I know,
We
I kind
talked
of, I
about
lost
so
my
many
train of
things,
thought
and
with
we
it
kind
all.
of ended up getting reports from each of the schools, are doing some really, really cool things, but I think in general, the overall theme of the meeting kind of landed in this conversation regarding an understanding of the importance of the connections, relationship building, and community. And so we started talking about all the different ways that the schools are doing that, and it really ended up even talking about at home. You know, all of us, we keep talking about the cell phones and the disconnection because of the phones, and so we kind of landed at, well, maybe the theme for next year could be an hour a day. Like, can we put our phones away at home, be together, read to our children, have dinner, play. Play was a big part of our
Right, right.
conversation. And whether that's at school, at home, or we're trying to get away from phones at school, just putting the technology down and just being together, whether that's with our peers
Right.
or with our families, our siblings, our parents, and parents with their children, and what an impact ultimately that can have on mental health all around for everybody.
And then, I'm sorry, thank
Go
you so much. I
ahead,
just
yeah.
totally lost my train of thought, but also how they can bring wellness into the schools and really energize our teachers, because one of the things that our student rep said was, when our teachers come in and they're excited and they're happy, then we're happy and we feel that. So what are ways that we can incorporate that? So going into their staff meetings like a couple times a year, just focusing on wellness, because we don't always allow ourselves that time to focus on our mental health. And we don't have time, we're too busy to do this. So really, we need to make an effort. You have to set aside the time, because if we don't prioritize it, then it just gets missed. So it was kind of like how we can bring it into the schools, but then how can we bring it into the homes too, and energize our students and help with overall mental health. So it was I thought a really productive meeting, and
was a good conversation.
looking forward to having some sort of a theme that we can spread throughout the whole year next year. Something that we can do, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
That concludes our reports of the committees and brings us to new business. A motion, please, to approve an overnight trip to the girls' wrestling team.
I move to approve the girls wrestling to take an overnight trip for the state championships in Augusta on on February 17th to 18th, 2025.
I'll second, Lisa.
Lisa? Very good. There's a handout in the packet explaining the details. This is very cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
State championship.
We just had a wrestler who was the most outstanding wrestler at the recent tournament. That was the Marshall Street.
That's awesome.
Pretty exciting.
Oh,
I guess,
wow.
as well.
Really awesome.
Yeah, really neat.
Very good. Questions from the board? Comments? All in favor? Very good. And a motion, please, to approve the first reading of IKF.
Move to approve the first reading and discussion of policy IKF, graduation requirements.
Second, Jen?
Very good.
Can I explain this?
Yes, please.
There's a lot here.
Yep, please.
This is in response to recent legislation that basically said students that attend an SRTC, a technical center, would have the opportunity to work towards core requirements for graduation at different school districts while they're at the SRTC. And so what we did is we went through and really tried to streamline and make things very clear as to where those areas might be. And so, for instance, I think there is some value judgments here as well that I think that the policy committee did make, where it said, for example, English language arts, 4 credits to include English 1, English 2, and English 3/AP Lit and Literature. So like we're saying that all students should have those 3 classes. And then there's an additional elective that if we wanted to use one of the courses at SRTC, which may make logical sense, and we do have a breakdown of what those courses would be, that would count towards that core requirement for graduation. So when I say that we made the judgment, is there are certain courses as we kind of went through and met with the high school staff and the school counselors around like what are those courses that experiences we need to have all students who graduate from Marshall to have. And so another example was science. Where we have freshman science, chemistry, and biology, where all students still need to have those 3 core sciences met. Social studies, world history, U.S. history, and then American citizenship. And then we kind of go down through things to explain it, and so we changed a little bit of language around physical education, where in the past it said 1 credit for PE, and so what we're saying now is a 0.5 credit, and then that there's a 0.5 PE elective that you could take. So for example, fire science would be a half of a physical education credit, so they can work off that credit towards graduation in that particular area. So, and then the other part is there's some really unique circumstances, and we wanted to give the building principal the flexibility to review transcripts on a case-by-case basis if things were out of alignment or there was an issues. And so we added that language in under E. And then we really got rid of the idea of like, here are these particular courses that are required, and then there's the electives. We felt like, it's all a requirement, and this is the kind of the portfolio that all students must take, and so we put those all together. So we made it a little bit more clear, I believe. And this would start with class of 2027 for a lot of these.
This is so much better than it was. Yeah, it just reads. It makes a lot more sense. I am confused about number 5. I'm not understanding. What am I missing?
So, beginning with the class of 2027, 1 credit of health. So we changed the health credit a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And so that now students are required to have 2 health classes. And the way it was written before, it was, it said, almost a required PE class, and that's not really how it's done. There's a freshman or first-year experience, typically first-year experience, where they take a half a credit of physical education, and then students can kind of have that elective, which could be Fit for Life, it could be weight training, it could be PE2, and so that elective course would be something that we'd be able to take at the SRTC, so, or the students would be able to take at the SRTC.
So it's still an elective offering at the high school, whether it's like
That's correct.
outdoor ed or something like that. So students that aren't doing SRTC can take an elective, but for students that are at SRTC, it doesn't pigeonhole them into getting stuck and not being able to, not having the room in their schedule to take hold or take outdoor ed or Fit for Life or something like that. They can use fire science as the elective credit instead of that.
Okay. I think what's throwing me is the semicolon. I'm sorry. Like, okay. No, you know me and my geeky grammar stuff. Okay, so beginning with the class of 2027, colon. Okay, meaning this is the way it's going to be done. 1 credit of health. Is that total?
Yes, so
Okay.
it used to be a half a credit of health, and it used to be 5.5 electives, and it changed to.
get that.
Yeah, okay.
So health is different than a
Than
PE.
physical education, that's
Health
correct.
is like an actual, like, it's a health class.
2 classes now.
Okay.
Remember we talked about the
So
drug and
1
alcohol?
credit of health and then plus?
An additional credit in physical education. One of
It
those
can
being
be
a
split
required.
up.
Yeah, I think to avoid the confusion, the semicolon should be replaced by a comma,
I think so.
is the problem.
That's what's really messing
Because
me
you were
up.
interpreting it as
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
1 credit total,
yes.
comprising
Yes.
Got it.
half physical ed.
Yeah. Yes.
I think
Okay.
the
Yes.
semicolon needs to be correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Sorry.
It's good?
No, it's
No.
important.
Make
Great.
that change.
Yep.
Good catch. The legislation notwithstanding, I think, we've long said that we value the courses that our kids take at the SRT, and it's good to be able
Yeah.
to
It doesn't happen a lot, but what the sentiment is that you really don't want the structure of the required courses to get in the way from students accessing SRTC. And so it is really difficult to schedule that for students the way it is right now. And so if a student would happen to get behind, we don't want to close that door on that child. And so we're trying to be like, this creates some flexibility where a student can do a couple things at one time to be able to meet their graduation requirements and still go to the SRTC.
Mhm. Comments or questions? All in favor? That's 5-0. See that again in a couple weeks. Motion please to approve the first reading of EBCE.
I move to approve the first reading and discussion of policy EBCE, school closings and cancellations.
Second, Heather?
Speaking of which, so funny.
Seems to be a fair bit of verbiage change here. Elimination of a paragraph and clarification in another.
Yes. We felt like that third paragraph really just was unnecessary with the way, and by adding basically a sentence,
Yep.
the second paragraph made a lot more sense. And then obviously updated that, we just
Yeah.
talked about district communication platforms rather than, now it's Thrill-Share, maybe it's going to be Blackboard Connect, like, it could just be anything, so just,
Yeah, but it clarifies and keeps the language that parents may decide to keep their children at home. and
ultimately
only
it's their
use
decision.
classes.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yep, makes sense. Okay, good.
Perfect.
Comments or questions? All in favor? Okay, that's 5-0, thank you. We'll see that again in 2 weeks. Motion please to approve first reading of IHBAI.
I move to approve the first reading and discussion of policy IHBAI, Independent Education Evaluation, IEEs.
Does no one want a second?
Someone second?
Oh, second, Jen.
Sorry, we're reading.
Can't act on the motion until it's seconded.
Sorry.
Thank you. Is this a new policy or?
No.
Oh, it's not, okay.
Oh, no changes? There's just no changes then?
This was just reviewed and decided that it needed no changes then?
I believe this is a, we took our policy and moved to the MSMA policy.
Ah.
So
Oh,
yes,
that's what it
why
was.
it
Yeah.
looks like there's no changes. So there is significant changes.
Oh, okay.
It does, the verbiage has changed, the sentiment is the same, but just trying to make things a little bit more clearly broken down for families.
Okay. This addresses specifically the evaluation that determines whether a child is eligible.
That's correct, that's correct.
Got it.
In a process, if a family doesn't agree with that or wants to have an outside evaluation done.
Right. Comments from the board, questions? All in favor? That's 5-0, thank you. That concludes our new business and brings us to building administrator check-in. And we're doing the lower grades today. In any way there.
I actually brought notes today. That's something going on. So we have a lot going on at the Great Works School, and so Friday we have our Winter Fest, and so it's it's kind of like the Race to Education and the Monster Mile. It's a big fundraiser, and years ago I was like, this thing can't work. It's all computerized and things like that. We used to bust a hump to be able to make $4,000 or $5,000 on a fundraiser. With this fundraiser, I think we're up to $19,000 or $20,000 already. It is just, it is crazy. It is crazy. But we have that's coming on Friday. Monday, we're going to have I think I told you at the last meeting, we have our unified basketball team, and so this is something we've started this year. And so we're going to have assembly to introduce our kids, and it's. We have 6 kiddos that are participating. We selected 6 kids to help them. And we have our 5th grade, where they're going to come out through the girls' locker room and break the paper probably and do a little scrimmage. But we have our 5th grade rock band going to be playing Eye of the Tiger as they come through. And it is, I mean, it's, I think I told you last time, Lindsay Gorman, our special ed teacher, said, for 6 years she's had this idea to have this, and then when Mr. Cavalli, Connor came along, they were talking, well, why don't we do this? And so it is just, and we have a lot of teachers that are involved in it. So I asked John, but I said, we have an administrators meeting on Mondays. I said, I've got to be late to that one. I just can't miss that one. So that's happening. Next Friday we have our I Love to Read Day. And we actually have the Portland Stage Company coming down, and so they're going to do a program, an assembly on acting out a story that they're going to be reading with our kids. And then our kids, teachers have signed up to have like individual class settings where the actors will go in and do a separate lesson and have our kids participate. So we've never done this before with the Portland Stage Company. So we're excited about that. And then I just have to say, this afternoon I scooted one of our 5th graders over. She's working at Central School, helping out a classroom. So I had to scoot her over. And she was just, yakking about how excited she is to go over. I was late, and so she was like, come on, Miss Mel, we got to get there. I got to help. And how important she takes it. I come back at the Great Works School. There's James. I'm walking down the hallway with James because he's working with a 4th grade kiddo, And then all of a sudden, there's Hawk Buddies. We have these Hawk Buddies that have started at the Great Work School, kiddos working with our kids. And like James, I don't know if you know how important it is and how much impact you have on that kiddo. And it just happens. Our kids look so forward to it. And so the more we can do that, where we have older kiddos helping younger kiddos, I just think is, we talk about relationships. And then the other thing is I'll be heading up back to school, putting on my boots. Ari Herman, I don't know if you know Ari, he's a senior here. So Ari has, for our Winterfest, we didn't know if we could have enough snow. He's built his own, makes his own snow. And so he's been at school since noontime today. And he is, I don't know what our water bill's gonna be this year, okay, this month, okay, I'll tell you that. But he has been making snow for our kids for the Winterfest. And so it's just, I mean, I say it before, we have such a community here that just helps one another, so, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to know how he does that. He must be freezing.
You go down to Powder House. You're done.
I know, right?
Just saying everything.
Well, thank you. We have a lot going on also at Central. We're so excited for Junk to Funk is in the house at Central School now, and just such a thank you. It's a split cost between MEF and our PTO and also our own budget, so we're just so excited to have him. And the work that Kate Smith and Brenda Stewart and Lisa O'Brien have done, it's been a huge collaborative effort. We collected so much recyclable materials. The kids are bringing in like thousands of bottle caps to make curtains that are like really cool, that when you walk in the gym that looks like beaded curtains from the 70s, and they make a lot of cool noise. So and our display case is full of, all the staff brought in recycled things from our house to show that you can make different. So it's a huge display that Kate really worked so hard on. Our neighbor Bill, who we love, who is does a lot of our crossing guard work. He's always greeting the kids with his dog Layla. He came in and made a display of using gourds, to recycle gourds for musical instruments. So it's been a huge collaborative effort. The kids all get a turn with Jeff 4 times and to do a performance. We'll do a performance on Thursday, and there'll be a special guest star staff performance as well that everybody's welcome to attend. Besides that, on Friday, we're hoping we don't have a snow day next week, because as long as we don't have a snow day next week, we'll have Friday free. And Friday, we are having UNH Little Red Wagon, often uses us as their dress rehearsal space. David Kay's been doing that for a long time, so we get to have them use our space for their dress rehearsal, and it's an Under the Drops in the Ocean. And we have to be ADA accessible because there is an actor in a wheelchair, so we're just really excited to have. So hopefully no snow next week, so that works, because if not, our performances kind of get all messed up. And also just on the theme of what Jerry was talking about, just looking around our school, we have 4 students from the high school with work opportunities that come to Central. We have 2 students that are doing an internship, one in our 3-year-old room, one in our 4-year-old room. We have a student that comes at least twice a week, and she comes and does all our recycling, all our deliveries. She's amazing. It's such a hard worker. And then we have somebody that comes and is mentoring in our phys ed. He loves basketball. He plays on the United team, so he comes and works with Kristen Teedy. So just so exciting to see those young people like mentors. And we also have staff now that are students and just substitutes that are 19. So it's just neat to just see all these kids that come back and that they all have connections to and supporting each other. So such a great community.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's fun.
Hey there. Elliot's been pretty busy too. We just finished celebrating Kindness Week, and though kindness is a culture that we try to foster every day, it's a special week where we recognize small acts of kindness by staff and students. I think my favorite part of the week is our chalk wall is covered with hearts that represent kindness displayed by students and staff, and the kids are so proud adding their heart to the wall. It's just a beautiful display. The Shipyards team has been working with our 3rd graders and doing a project on animal adaptations of the ocean and doing some coding projects. Very fun to go in and see, and the kids are so engaged and thrilled. The volunteers have been very helpful. White Pines has been joining our school once a week for recess, and the kids have been doing rotations learning about beavers outside. The kindergartners were going to go today. I was excited to go out and see them, but it was too cold to get outside for that. But I'm looking forward to seeing those kiddos. Northeast Passage was recently at our school. It's a program that promotes similarities awareness. Students listened to a short presentation, but the fun part for them was playing games like sharks and minnows and wheelchairs. It's pretty fun to watch how quickly they adapt and enjoy being with their friends. February, looking forward, we have author Chris Van Dusen coming. He's the author of Circus Ship, Mercy Watson, some of those stories, and we have a family literacy night. He's going to be there as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Okay, any last comments or questions from the board?
Can I
Sorry,
just
yes,
touch
go
upon
ahead.
something?
Please, go ahead.
I want to share some information that might address some of Mr. Cleary's questions that he had for us.
Okay.
And so we met as an administrative team, and I did get some feedback from some families with some concerns about some of our programming at the elementary school. And so we had an opportunity to talk a little bit, and two issues really became very clear. One is that we want to make sure, from a curricular standpoint, that our pre-Ks are doing the same things. I mean, that's really important. That's part of the work that we're doing. And so clearly, this is something that we need to spend some time on. The other part is transparency. And so we never want families to feel like things are being done to them, but being done with them. And so when we don't communicate at times, that makes families feel that way. And so we're really trying to find ways to be able to communicate. For example, in Elliott, in all of our buildings, we have a partnership with the Maine Association of School Librarians, where they send Chickadee books out every year, and the students for years have voted on those books. And this year, one of those books caused some controversy. And so from a programmatic standpoint, it's really like we have our curriculum mapping for English, for first grade, for second grade, for third grade. But when we look at our library program, we don't have that. And so what we need to do is just clearly, when we send out a kind of our update as far as like what's happening in our classroom, we're doing this in PE, we're doing this in art, just to say we are reading the Chickadee books, here's the access to the 12 Chickadee books, and put that out to families to give them an opportunity to know what we're doing. I think opening our doors, being more communicative is really important. It is IMBB as a policy. We talk about exemption. This happens fairly frequently. I think the example that always comes up is people sometimes have concerns with Catcher in the Rye. And so there's concerns, and so an alternative assessment is given to those students to be able to offset the instruction that they're concerned about. And so we want to work with families and respect their values, but we also want to make sure we're communicating. And so although I don't want to get into specifics, I just think it's important just to say that there are some things that we are taking away as we met with an A team this week. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the board? I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second, Heather?
All in favor? That's 5-0, and we are adjourned.